will join me, except especially the female audience. But tonight we are going to be discussing, at least I'm going to be kind of laying out this idea, or what is tonight? What is it called? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. It is Are Women Sheep in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? And this was all brought on by listening to Dale G. Brenlin and today. Uh, Again, it won't be much of a discussion if we don't get people to join me. So hopefully it'll happen. And because again, there's a lot to cover here, but again, without me, bounce ideas off of people, especially the female, then it's going to be hard. And we might bring in a couple of videos if we have to kind of add into the discussion. But again, the this talk that Del G. Brenlin came was presented, and it's called "The Priesthood and the Savior's Atoning Power." And I was thinking to myself how a male species in the church is groomed into an elder, and how that is completely absent from how we groom the sisters into the church to become members of the Relief Society organization. Their position in the church is just as important as the male species. And so again, I'm not going to try to get into this real fast. Like I said, I'm hoping that others will come in and join me. I made a late dash to get this thing together. And so hopefully, again, it'll be discussion and uh, not just a monologue on my part. And so let me see if I can find. Let me make sure that my audio is working. The female. Oh yeah, my audio is working, so that's a good thing. Um, let's see. Nobody's still. Ay, ay, ay. This is going to be tough. Nobody here. Just going to monologue out for an hour or whatever. But anyway, I do have to add in. Well, I was talking to my daughter who, has left the church, but and she seems to still hold to the church in some ways, but there's still she doesn't feel like she belongs there, whatever uh, that looks like. But we were talking about the difference between the male species in the church and the female species. And when I said that it seems like the female is just pushed through like a bunch of sheep into a corral. And she agreed with this idea. She felt like that the church is really geared around and the way that she was commenting, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but the way that she was commenting, she felt like the church was really standardized in its approach to the female compared to the male and to the male, where the male is instructed in scouts or at young men activities where they're presented a living outside of the home, whereas the female is presented with lessons in their mutual or in the young women's program as being in the home and raising the family. Now, of course, in our minds, which we are greatly influenced by the Bible and old tradition, because I think if you hold to the Bible and its tradition, then you hold to uh, a tradition that is also ancient in a lot of ways. And so, how do we move into the let me get my mic closer. Sorry about that, folks. Again, I'm just slashing and cutting, doing everything I can to get this thing rolling. But again, how do we get the female uh, in the church feeling like they are individuals and not just a bunch of sheep that are being uh, ushered into each stall first they go into primary, and I think the females and males are again ushered in at this in the same process. I don't think there's any difference in the primary program, but then whenever you get into you start getting later into the primary program, they start to differentiate in a way the male role and the female role. And then once you get to become the Miamade, or excuse me, beehive age or the deacon age, then there's a huge separation on what is being presented to the male compared to the female. And today, in today's world, it's a lot different. And even in my great grandmother's age, and again, if you grew up impoverished, there wasn't nobody left in the house except for the oldest child looking after the youngest child, maybe. My 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 great grandmother talked about how she was dragging my dad on the tow sack while she was picking cotton, and that there was times. And look how many women were industrious in the world because of the necessity, because of war became the force which drove the necessity of our uh, putting more and more women into the workforce than we'd ever had before. I'm just checking on, make sure nobody wants to join me and I didn't give them a link. So I'm trying to get others on to hopefully join me, but we'll just do it this way. We'll do the best we can. So again, now we come to this modern age, and even the church of Jesus Christ has fallen into the modern age, but meaning the attitude of especially the female has uh, fallen into the modern age. I think up to about 2000 or so, especially 2000. I think the line where this cuts is year 2000, because everybody has this idea of hoping to, like I said, I'm going to check my phone once in a while just to see if anybody wants to join me, because that's what I'm hoping for tonight. But you do what you got to do, and if nobody wants to join, well, I'm just going to have to do this by myself. Anyway, year 2000 was where music changed, the attitude of society changed, and everything, because the year 2000 was projected out to be the end of the world. It was supposed to be the return of the king. There was all these built up anticipations for that time period. Because, and you look at the music of the time before that, Depeche Mode, I've talked about this ad nauseum about this, but I think it's important that we review these things as we go along here, talking about how women feel like they're only sheep in the church, and they don't feel like they are individuals. But we'll get into that. Like I said, I'm hoping to not waste enough time. I'm hoping to give you some dialogue, some background so that we can move into that conversation if and when people join. But anyway, the music, if you look at the music before 2000, even your secular music like Peter Gabriel, uh, Don, excuse me, the Jefferson Airplane, the Grateful Dead, Bob Dylan, again, so many of them were talking about Depeche Mode. Bob Marley is the one I was put Don on there, but Don McLean and even what's his name? Spirit in the Sky by oh, I know the name, Norman Greenbaum. Okay, these were secular groups that were producing music, talking something about the spirituality of human beings. If it wasn't on the radio, then it was in their albums that they were creating that didn't make the music didn't make the airways, because they had, again, they were promoted to this level where their music like the White Rabbit, which was by the Jefferson Airplane, talking about hallucinogenics and things like that, and the drug, but that still it still kind of meets the middle or somewhere on the edge of of the spirituality, because that's the whole thing was uh, for the Indian or for the those who were taking the hallucinogenics was to get deeper inside themselves as where a conduit would meet to the spiritual end of their existence, so they could marry up with it in a more meaningful way. So everything they were producing, a lot of times, especially the hippie acid rock groups, they were trying to meet that spirituality somewhere. So again, so everything is, and this is all built up from, again, their families generally, because of the 60s, the families before that that were raising these children were very spiritual. We just went through a war, and at time of war, you become more, or after the war, especially during war and after the war, you become more spiritual. I mean, because it's influenced by the fact that you want your loved one who's out fighting this war to come home. You're impoverished at this time most of the time, and you need him to make it. And you're struggling with children maybe or whatever, and you're down on your knees constantly trying to reach out to something that will give you uh, hope and release of the pressure that is applied. So the world was really spiritual, or especially the United States, were very spiritual during World War II and after World War II. And so these children that were being born at that time were very much influenced by Christianity. And then you drive them into the 60s, and somehow the culture completely flipped on its ear. All right. And then somehow they became very spiritual in their nature, but wanting to reach outside of that because they felt like they were uh, uh, oppressed in some ways, and so they were trying to reach out of that prison. Uh, and here's and so with all those things going on, again, the spirituality, and there was still a connection to the traditional family. Mom stayed at home, man went out and worked. The children were raised by the mother mostly. But as it soon developed that the transition from a single income in the family be, looked looked kind of stagnant. Looked like you weren't getting anywhere because some people were taking advantage of the fact that maybe they were still without children, that both the husband and wife could go out and work, and they were getting farther ahead faster than anybody else. And so it started to become more and more appealing to the masses for a two-income house. And now we are into the 2025, and even before that, go back a little ways, up to 2012 or whatever that looks like. People are starting to realize that, or the masses are starting to realize that the world has changed. It's on its head when it comes to how the female fits into our society and how the male fits into that society. And the church, I don't think they caught up fast enough. I don't think they've caught up fast enough yet. I think there's a lot to grow on. And I'm hoping that through this discussion, maybe you guys share this video, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification. Go ahead and leave a comment and let me know how you're doing, where you're from. But the point of this is we need to get this idea out so that others can kind of move this into the right direction throughout the all the wards in the world. And so I'm hoping that's what happens. And again, if you have time, come and spend time with me here on Zoom. And if you want a link, I will just leave a comment and I'll take care of that. Again, how, you know, like I said, this is not hard for me to have a monologue discussion on my own. It's quite easy. I do it all the time. I'm very good at, I'm just checking to see if there's anybody on any of the places I put the link or anything, and nothing going on there. So we're just going to do this all by myself, mostly. But I think you'll be entertained, and I think you can roll with this. So again, the reason that the name of the show tonight is "Are Women Sheep in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints" is important to note because of what I'm going to explain. Again, females are changed emotionally some ways, but mostly their mental or their processing has changed on many applications because again, there's the eligibility or the likelihood of having a successful marriage has dwindled into their has dwindled in their time. They see more divorces even within the church. They see the standard of living by those who are secular being elevated. They don't never see the demise of our society and those that are struggling because they don't have a structured family. They only see those people that they see as mentors to get them to the next level in their life. And if your mentor is your professor uh, or your coach or whatever, and they establish themselves as being successful in their career field, and they happen to be female, well, you want to be successful too, because you don't see. There's two things, two ideas of thought there. You don't see the advantage of getting married, for one, because you're afraid of the idea that you might get a divorce that might end in a bad way. Or the other processing is I don't want to share time with anybody else but myself. And if I put more uh, people in my world, then I never can achieve the greatness that I'm looking at whenever it comes to being looked upon as being equal in the society that I live in. And that's what it's, a lot of times, women feel inferior in our society and they want to build themselves up without, and it's unfortunate that they look at it that way. And there's another, uh, I'll give you another position on this that's quite interesting, especially for the female. This is why I need a female to come and join me on this. And I wish they, it's, and somebody wanted to come in some other time and have this discussion who's a female, a couple of females, it would be great. I really would appreciate it because I think it's important for you to have a dialogue in this. It's like last night where I was at the Bible study at the Catholic Church, and we're talking about eventually get into this conversation about Adam and Eve, and we're talking about how Eve was beguiled by the serpent, and I'm like, and the guys are talking about Eve. I'm like, why? I mean, men have no idea why Eve instinctively followed after the ideas that Satan presented to her. So I said, okay, females, I don't want to put you on, I have to ask this question. As a female, what, why did, why did Eve chase after the apple or the fruit? Why was she able to be beguiled? And we already talked about how if Adam was there close by her side, there's no way that Eve would have taken the fruit from Satan because they would have been because he wasn't when Eve presented to him, he's like, nah, ain't gonna happen. But then whenever she presented the idea that hey, you got to take care of me. And we got to have children. Then he was like, you know, he just went ahead and went and did it with what would you say, responsibility for his wife. But the women are the only ones that can really answer the question why Eve instinctively partook of the fruit, knowing that the commandment was not to, even though that it was being presented by Satan there. So what do we do with that? And again, we're looking at, so whenever I'm talking about this subject about women feeling like they're sheep in the church, a lot of times, that's where I need others to female persuasion to roll in on this. But anyway, hopefully sometime down the road, I'll set one up that even looks better than this, where I do have others that want to join me. But here's the so what is this idea of our women sheep in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? All right. Here's the process of the male. You groom him to become a deacon. All right, through the teachings in the church, and it's a male dominant uh, uh, storyline all the way through every aspect of the 4 years of teaching the gospel. I mean, it used to be a lot worse. I mean, it used to, I don't know if it's worse, but I'm just saying it used to be even more dramatic in that way years ago. But they've found ways to uh, bring in the female more often. And even a long time ago when I had a talk, one of few, the my one of the it was on testimony or whatever that was. And one of the things that I mentioned that in that talk was the power in which the female in the restoration story had when it came to the influence of my testimony. That these were the strongest kind of human beings that around, that they were able to overcome so much in that time period, that their incredible story, uh, it yeah, I got a hole in my shirt. Oops. Anyway, we'll try to fix that next time. But anyway, they are incredible. And yeah, I mean, the incredible stories. I mean, Emma Smith having to travel across the plains in snow with her children, one on her hip, just incredible. And Eliza R. Snow and so many others who were done in the worst way, you know, and then having losing their wives or losing their husbands to either a mission or death. And then they're asked to be a part of a polygamous community, many of them. Now, again, they're like all these things that are going on in their life. They have to be very, very strong, and therefore they are my heroes in many ways. But the problem is in the church, it's a male dominant role play in all of our association with the Restoration, with the Book of Mormon, with the Bible, with the Doctrine and Covenants. It's all male dominated. I mean, how many times have we heard a male name in the first 12? Where are we at? Chapter 15 or so, 17, wherever that looks like. And it's all been male dominant. Once in a while, you'll hear Emma Smith or Lucy in our conversation, but really, it's Joseph Knight Sr., it's David Whitmer, it's Oliver Cowdery, it's Martin Harris, it's Joseph Smith, it's Hiram Smith, it's Joseph Smith Sr. Okay, where are the women in this story? And it seems to be vacant. And we hear about Mormon, and we hear about Nephi, and we hear about Moroni, and So all these people, these males, and we don't have any uh, tied to the female in these stories. And so again, with that, again, we're all about. I have we pressed ourselves so much into the gathering of the 12 tribes of Israel, so much so that we are driven more so by hey, how many people can we baptize, instead of thinking to ourselves how important both man and woman really are in this construction of the church. And we have to really provide a dialogue in our church, and what would you say, an eventful place in the church, so that the female feels elevated in the process in which we're asking everyone to do. Be a missionary, go out and teach the world, and bring forth the fruit in which the Lord has delivered unto us. All right. So there's a lot there. And I'm talking about when we talk about the fruit that the Lord has delivered, his goodness in us should be recognizable to others that are around us. And today, I just, whenever I get tired and sleepy or whatever, I'm fatigued or hadn't got enough sleep, once in a while I let go. And I'm very obnoxious in a lot of ways. And so I was working on a piece of equipment, and there's stuff on the ground that shouldn't be there. And the guys that are there with me, one of them's my mechanic friend, and the other two guys are just standing there who are supposed to be taking care of this area. And I use the word stupid in my dialogue towards those who were being careless. All right. And they were shocked. They were shocked that I even used that word. All right. So again, where did I, holy smokes. I don't even know where I was going with that story, but I'm just saying that's an event for today. I know there was something somewhere I'm going, but let's go back. So again, this the name of the video is "Are Women Sheep in the Church of Jesus Christ?" Just a shock value title. It's not really what I think, but I think women really feel like that there's less uh, less of uh, a thought process when it comes to their advancement within the church. And I don't know if it's the same today as it was a long time ago, but I don't know, and I don't know. But it seems like it is, but I don't know how much it has changed. But I know I still don't see the same kind of this idea of how we bring the young man into the the thoughts of those who are sustaining them, like we would the young women. Again, these places that we're putting the young women should be looked upon, being a beehive, being a Maya maid, being a laurel, going into the Relief Society, should be uh, in the same matter of adoption into those places as the deacons are the 12-year-old males that are adopted in through the ordinances which we perform, which is the laying on of hands, and they receive the priesthood and are ordained to the office of a deacon. All right. There's again, you're adopted into that, you're accepted into that family, what we call a family, and that doesn't seem to be, and it's not the way that the female is presented into the beehive, all right, and the laurel and the Maya maid and laurel. Think about, is it laurel, Maya maid? Laurel and probably Maya maid, I guess. Whatever. What I'm saying is they seem to be just ushered in by the shepherd into the corral and not even given any instruction of what it means to be a beehive, except for what they've learned maybe in primary, maybe it may be at the home, all right? But did the bishop ever take a female into the office? Again, here's a problem with society now, and with the it's people are so bad in so many places in the world that even though that we want the best of intentions for everybody with the doctrine and the theology that we have to present to the individuals, there's still people that are predators, unfortunately, in the church that are in officiating places. Again, so it gets scary to even think that there's even one out there. And how my child, my female daughter, goes into the room and is supposed to be there by herself with the bishop, and he's asking them questions, making them feel uncomfortable at times. All right, made me feel uncomfortable, and I'm a male, and I was old, and I felt uncomfortable when I had to fess up about the disastrous life that I had in my life. So I can only imagine what a female would feel like, especially a young female would feel like, especially one maybe it's matured and 14, 15, and she knows the things that go on in the world kind of thing. But how she would feel being asked questions that are not, um, what would you say, uh, easy in that mixed company. Now, here's a thought on that, just real quick, because we're not talking about ordination into an office or uh, into the priesthood as an officiating member of the priesthood, which is to uh, uh, deal with or to present the offering of Jesus Christ, which is the bread and water, and also eventually become able to baptize and to prepare the sacrament, because they're not being ordained into those offices and being given officiating or official uh, uh, um, official standing in the priesthood, but they have the priesthood because of the priesthood of all believers. But they don't have the Aaronic priesthood. They just have the priesthood of all believers, whatever that means. Whatever. But what I'm saying is because of the nature of what I'm saying here is is uh, more to treat the female as individuals and not a bunch of sheep that are being put in a pen and hoping that they get it. Then why don't we go ahead and have the president of the young women have that interview and that instruction to the female that is being brought into and asking the questions, same questions that the bishop would ask a young man. All right. Because you can't be in order for me to hold my priesthood position and to hold the office in which I preside in, all right, I must live a righteous life. All right. And in order to be in good standing in a female, you know, where they, again, opportunities arrive where you can become the president or a counselor or, or secretary or whatever that like. If the female agrees to the conditions uh, uh, which they are being asked to agree to, then why can then they can be in the adopted into the family of Beehive, the family of Laurel, and the family of the Maya maids, feeling like they're individuals. And then once the officiating person, uh, who's the young women's president, goes to the bishop and says, "We have found her in good standing, or these individuals in good standing to to move to the next level, uh, the bishop presents their name to the audience, and the ward says, "Here, we'd like for you to sustain uh, these individuals to the next uh, into the Miami Beehive or Laurel, or even into the Relief Society." And they have, and you can, again, I haven't formulated all this out. There's smarter people than me that can do this, but there's a way for us to articulate to the audience who's sustaining these young women into their next role in the church. And therefore, they get a chance as an individual to feel like uh, they are thought of as being more than just sheep being ushered in. Again, what does this all look like? It's been, you know, it's been so long, and and my daughter, she's like, you know, look at the way that the females are treated in the church, and I'm like, yeah, but we've only been around for a couple of hard years, so give us a little bit of time to work these things out. But we have been in operation for 200 years, and we haven't moved fast enough, in my opinion, to make the female feel like an individual. And then when they get into those places, all right, ask them what they want. And I think the new curriculum within the young men, young women's theme seems to point to that direction. All right. And that's a good thing. But in these mutual or these young women, young men classes, are they really focusing on the essentials of life as they are presented today? Not as they were presented 100 years ago, but presented today. All right. But the problem with all that is you still you still want the you can play it both ways. You can play, well, it's hard to play it both ways. We'll just play it one way for right now, then we'll talk about the different way. So the female in what again traditional ideas, and if you're locked in on the Bible or the scriptures, and you think about the old ways, because that's the age in which your thought process is in, because that's the way it was whenever God was talking to his prophets and apostles at the time. And so we think about the traditional way that the family is structured. And the families were structured where the female was at home, took care of all the needs at home, raised the children, and the man was out performing tasks for to get some kind of financial gain out of his efforts, and therefore being able to bring that money home. Somebody just text me. I'm going to be so anyway. Sorry about that. Just wanted to check on who was talking. But anyway, so the male would go out and they would do whatever they had to do to bring provisions home for the family to be provided for. Again, that's not the way the world works in reality today. We would love to keep that tradition. We would love to keep that structure because it's the structure that we are instructed in the scriptures to hold to. All right, even in our family proclamation. But again, you know, how do we process that? All right, into and adapting that to our modern, it's almost impossible. All right, the modern female says, "I want to be successful in the mechanical world." All right, no longer do I want this. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Let me get back here for a minute. I know I'm going to move a little bit on my thoughts, and uh, and hopefully we get through this pretty easy like. The challenge for a female is ridiculous, to say the least. The male as easy as pie in this structured world that we present as the idea family. All right. Male goes out. He works his 8 hour day, 12-hour day. He gets paid. There's your reward. He'll get a raise. He'll be able to celebrate that raise and know that he's accomplished. All right. He knows he's accomplished because he's getting a raise. He might even be climbing the ladder to success, making it all the way to corporate CEO. All right. He might create his own business. Now he's a wealthy tycoon. Right. And the woman, yeah, if you got a successful man, the woman is very, what would you say, instrumental in that process. What about the children? You ever watch Harry Potter? I won't watch it that much. They got too many words in it, even especially the one where the aunt comes in and she starts talking about derogatory towards Harry Potter's mother, and the female dog. You know what they say in that is bad. So is the offspring. All right. So you can only imagine what a female would feel like knowing that her that the society's view of success for a mother is hinged on how her children present themselves to the world. If they look down and low, the mother is down and low. If the children are prepped, primed, and good natured, then the mother is prepped, primed, and of good character. What a mountain to climb when you have to rely on your children who, again, look at Adam and Eve, they get one, and then they get the second one, and one of them kills the other. And you could blame it all on Eve because she was the mother of Cain just as much as Abel, but because of the way that she took of the fruit, therefore she was punished, you know? Or you could blame, but it's not that easy. If you're a Latter-day Saint, you should know that the characteristics of a human being come immediately from the spirit that dwells within them. All right? Here's some hard lessons to learn. All right? Here's a hard lesson to learn. If whatever you're engaged in at that time that you're having children will be the kind of children the kind of spirits that will want to become your child. All right? So if you're living a chaotic life, then guess what kind of children you're going to, or what kind of spirits will want to dwell with you and be spawned from you. All right? If you're living a wholesome, temple-like life, then guess what kind of children could receive. Now, that doesn't mean that God does not allow free will and allows, what would you say, problems to arise in good families. I mean, Lehi was a prophet. Abraham was a prophet. He had Ishmael. Now they're warring against Isaac's children. So again, it's not always in the you're it's a crapshoot, as they saw. That's where you throw the dice out there. You roll 7 or 11. Well, you're a big winner. All right. But if you throw craps, which is snake eyes, 3, and a and 6, 12, then you lose. All right. All that first roll. All right. So it's a crapshoot. And you don't know what you're getting as a female when it comes to the children that you're going to have to that you're going to be challenged to raise. And your whole success is dependent in your mind on how those children will present themselves in society. If you're a good mother, all right? If you're thoughtful, hardworking, loving, God-fearing mother, that's what you'll be thinking about. All right. And when you lose them children to the world, boy, that hurts. See, I'm not a female. So how am I going to really give any insight on this? But I can only imagine what that means. So again, I'll have this discussion at any given time in the future, and I hope people will join me that will, and especially females who want to. So again, how do we fix the problem in the church when it comes to the female feeling like they're just sheep being forced into this stall, learning how to serve man? That's what my daughter said. That all we were there for was how we were going to serve man. Now if you have the perspective in life, all right, of wanting to uh, have the traditional family, have the picket fence, the beautiful yard, the house, the solid God-fearing man in your life, then you will seek and you will love the opportunity to know how you serve the male species. But if your mindset as a female is uh, to be well, no, you can be educated either way, okay? Don't let me get that. And you can be successful outside of the home. I get all those things. All right. But again, I'm not female, so I'm working through this. All right. So I'm complaining. So share this video, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, leave a comment. All right. Let me know how things are going. I got one comment tonight and it says, "Good night," from from somebody. I'm not sure. Give me a name if you want. But anyway, again, let's go back and let's do this for the real. All right. If you are a female who desires the traditional family, you'll love the structure in which is current or was current in the church when it came to how the female uh, was shepherded in to these classes so that they could learn what it is to be a homemaker, right? Be the mother of the children that she will soon have, soon to be years, whatever that looks like. But anyway, but if your mind is set on goals outside of a traditional family, then the structure in which the young women's program is not is going to be very hard for you in a lot of ways. They're telling you that you go out and get an education in case of your significant other dying, and now you have to help. Now you have to support yourself. They're telling you to get an education because it's a good thing. But the primary goal for the female in the church still is to raise children unto the Lord. And because of the problems in our society where the male species seems to his neglect that idea of of raising his family, because uh, raising his family to God, but raising it to his ancestors, to glorify his ancestor, seems to have dwindled and has no longer has place in the world. Because what was traditional was especially farming families. And that's where a lot of us were before the new age. All right. And I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about generations before me. Think about Israel. All right. Think about Israel and how they structured their world. And they still have that same structure in a lot of ways, where the male offspring was the inheritor of land and property, that they were given the birthright, they were given the blessing from their father. All right. And all these things were a part of their culture. I think, and the Palestinians, they don't want to leave that place. You know why? Because it was promised to Abraham. It was promised to their fathers, and they feel like they have an inheritance there. And there's no way that they're going to leave this place to leave it to somebody else, because that's their inheritance. That's their tradition. That's their family that's buried in that land. We don't have that. We get an apartment, we got a condo, we get a rented house, and we're satisfied with that. Ain't gonna ain't gonna work on Maggie's farm anymore, because those traditions don't live in the real world. So we've broke down the family structure, going back in our heritage. And the male species doesn't see the necessity of having children. And I was right there. I got tied up. All right. So I wouldn't have no more children. Now I got 8 children, and and I love them all. Don't ask me how they got here, but they get here. I got a second wife, divorced the first one. My second wife had four, and then I adopted the youngest two. I love all my children. I love them so much. They're great children. They're all successful in their own way, meaning they all work or they're going to school or whatever that looks like. All right. And I watch my oldest son, who's got this disease called agoraphobia, where he can't get out of the house too good, and he's down there. He's working at the Catholic Church, which he left the church and now he works at the Catholic Church. Goes there, but we're there at the Catholic um, Bible study last night, and he's anxious and he's overwhelmed by his disease, and he's fidgeting and he's jerking and giving that and just trying to calm himself down. He's got to wear a hat, and he knows Dad don't like people wearing hats inside of the house, and especially in the Lord's house. Whether it be the Catholic Church or the Church of Jesus Christ, whatever that be. You don't wear hats in those places. But he's got to wear the hat because of his uncomfortable feeling. But he's trying. All right. I love my children. Love all of them. All right. They're all doing well in a lot of ways. But again, the male species doesn't seem to be in any, uh, they don't think forward and they don't think back. They think about now. And how does it build them up as an individual? All right. Become self-absorbed. I was self-absorbed. All right. It's kind of funny. I didn't want to have no more children except for that. I had one. My wife, my first wife, she had a child already. I married her, that knowing that she already had a child, of course. And then we had a child together and all that. Whatever. And I was good with that. Whatever. And then there's two more that come along, and then I divorce her and I get married to another. Now I got 8 is enough. But but do you know how many I spent years and years? I spent 20 years coaching. I spent before that, before I was coaching, years before that, I was finding all the neighborhood kids, going out to the park and go play with them. Whatever game we could come up with. Soccer was a highlight, football. We'd play Fox and the Hound, which is a hide and seek game. We would do this for hours on end every day. And I loved it. And somehow I didn't want my own. What a crazy, whatever. But I got all my, like I said, all eight of them are my own. The most precious things to me. All right, now I got coming up on six grandchildren. Love them all. All right. And so with that, I'm just saying that the male species, they get this awful idea in their head. They don't want to, that they'd rather sit at home, play video games all day. After they go to work, they get their success in for that day. They come home, they just sit at sit, eat for a minute, and then they come straight to their video. Now I'm going to play some tonight. All right. But but nobody, I can't get my kids to go out and play with me anymore. All right. That's a problem. Why aren't my children wanting to go out and play with dad anymore? Yeah, I mean, when I was their age, I couldn't wait to get out to go play. I was playing all the time. That was part of the problem that I had was, I wanted to go play basketball. I mean, when I got in the military, I played basketball morning, noon, and night, or some sport. I was always playing cards or something like that. I was always engaged in games. All right. And now it's video games, and now it's a whole different world that way. But there's still kids that want to go out and play. You still got teams out there. I'm hoping that one of my grandchildren want to play soccer someday and give me a life outside of the four walls that I live in. But anyway, so what I'm saying is the female seems to be disappointed a lot of times in the prospects of marriage and who is available. My son, he don't 21 years old. Females don't even think about getting around him because I mean he's a good, handsome man, pretty successful in his life, got good family around him. But he's had a couple of girls that latched onto him for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they didn't want to carry it on, or he didn't want to carry it on. And he got, well, I don't know if he got burned or not, but meaning that they left him or whatever that looked like. It was funny one day um, he was going to go to Arizona. He's going down there to see his friend, his friend that he grew up here with in town. And there's four or five boys that grew up together, and one of them lives in Arizona. But he had a girl down there that was interested in him. I said, "Look, I need you to get married to this girl because I want your room. Because if we get married, then I can kick you out. All right. But if you go on your mission, then I got to hold on to that room for 2 years with your stuff still in there. So it's to my advantage you get married." He wasn't having it. Yeah, right. He'd already, it was her birthday. That's what it was. But he went down there because he promised he'd go to it. But for the most part, he's standoffish about girls. All right. As far as a mission, I, I I'm hoping, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to force him into it. I'm not even going to chastise him for not doing it. I might, what would you say a prayer once in a while, all the time. I haven't done that. Maybe I should start praying really hard about my son going on a mission, and the Lord will hear my cry, my tears, and maybe he'll perform a miracle in his family. All right? That's what I'll do. But anyway, so again, now I've got my older son, he really having a hard time. He's got a girl, but he can't. he can't make it to her in her family's house, which is no more than 3 or 4 miles away from his house, maybe 5 miles away from his house. And he can't make it that far. And so she says he ain't gonna put a ring on my finger till you get to my parents' house. So he's got big problems. So even though that he wants to try to have a family, what does that look like in the future? And it's like he's prays and he seeks out uh how he can overcome this disease he has so that he can live a normal life. But again, my oldest daughter, again, I got there's three of the grandchildren right there, and I'm glad for that. But they don't have my last name now, do they? All right. Which is great. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't take for them grandchildren for nothing. I love them. All right. It's not about the name, it's about my relationship with them. All right. And again, then my next oldest boy, he's got a wife, but he's got his master's degree coming up here, hopefully in May. And hopefully they start a family. All right. Good woman. Good woman. Now he's not a member of the church, so that what does that look like? Or he's left the church, or he doesn't go, or whatever that looks like. I don't know. Whatever that looks like. And then you got my next child is uh you know she's she's successful in her career, but again, she's tried to be a woman that or tried to be somebody that's available for marriage, but never worked out. And then my next child, he's married, all right, and he's I don't know if they're trying to have a child yet or not, but whatever that looks like. But he's married. At least he's trying to organize a family, thinking about me, doing a good job that way. And then, and I've got one child with two of my grandchildren, going three. And then I've got another, wait a minute. No, one of my grandchildren going on two. And then one of my other daughters, she's got one child, and another, adopted into the family. But again, who's got my last name? Well, that's a complicated story there, you know. But anyway, for what I'm saying is we've lost our tradition of and what because there's no reward anymore for the male species to carry the last name even of their fathers, or to even think about having children to continue on with the name, because where's the reward in this? You're going to occupy all my time. I'm not going to be able to sit at the computer all day and play games if I want. And the female looks at this and she's like, "That's what I got to choose from." They don't even have the energy to even get up to clean themselves. I my expectations are a lot higher than that. I don't want to be changing anybody's diaper that's old. All right. I want them to fend for themselves once in a while. I want them to help around the house. I want them to cook dinner once in a while for me, make it a special occasion. All right. All these things play into the female mind. And if they don't see prospects, they rather go out and venture for themselves to uh, meet the needs of the world that they have. So they want to become successful in the world because that's the only place they feel that they have control over what they look like in the end. All right. People will praise them for their success outside of the home more so than they do when they raise a good family. And that's unfortunate. All right. So we got a lot of work to do in the church. And I hope, again, share this video, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Please leave a comment and hit that bell notification. All right. And if you feel like you want to have this conversation, especially the females out there, please join me. Please give me a text or whatever, and just get the word to me that you want to actually have input on this process. Again, it's a hard life out there for the female, more so than the male. Again, the male success is amplified in so many places. The female, again, ushered into the classes like they're sheep, and that's not good. So how do we change that? Again, share this video, like this video. All right, get the algorithm to present this to a lot of people so that we can be the changers of how things are done in the church in a big way, in the right way. I don't have all the answers, but I believe this is the right answer where we get started. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.